You tune to Evergreen Media Network. I am Cindy Schwartz. This is the Patient Partner Show. Jeannie Roller and I are on the show, on the podcast, talking about healthcare snafus, ideas, different things that have happened. We interview people that have had serious and not so serious, but just any kind of trauma in the medical arena when they've had different procedures and stuff. And we kind of question a lot of this stuff. We're not doctors, we're not lawyers, but we have so many conversations with people that feel the same way, that some of this stuff is just common sense, and we're wondering what actually is happening to the healthcare quality and also the healthcare arena, both for the people that are in the healthcare industry and also the patients of us that have to seek medical care in these different facilities. And what is really going on? Is it a shift in different ways to do things? Is it a shift away from patient centeredness? The focus is on the patient. What's happening? So I want to talk about a story, and Jeannie and I were just discussing it before we went on air, of what happened to me recently with an endocrine doctor that I've been going to for quite a few years now, that has recently retired because he has his own health issues, serious health issues, so he had to retire early, which he didn't anticipate. But, it is what it is, and doctors get sick too. And they've been following my thyroid, and for the last 5, 6, 8 years, it's been testing fine or whatever. But the gist of the story is, when I went into the appointment, I hadn't been told beforehand that this doctor has retired. And when I was in the appointment physically in the room, the nurse had taken my blood pressure, and she said, well, so-and-so is going to be with you in a few minutes. And I'm like, I wonder who that person is. I've never heard that name before. And they didn't say, well, Dr. So-and-so is going to be with you. And I was like, oh. So then the person walked in, a female medical person, and she introduced herself as a nurse practitioner. And I was like, I wonder how this actually works, because I'm there for a very serious instance. I have thyroid nodules, and they're doing different biopsies and stuff like that. And I'm like, I personally just don't feel that a nurse practitioner for that serious of an illness, which I think that this is, if it points towards thyroid cancer, has the schooling and the knowledge and, the kind of background with it. And so I don't know what I'm going to do going forward. I have some ideas or whatever, because there are other doctors, and certainly I can, go to another practice or go whatever avenue I choose to go by. But I've seen that, and we've talked with people in many more instances than just mine that this has happened to, where their forefront of their care is a nurse practitioner. And I'm not beating up on nurse practitioners. I think that it's an excellent vocation and excellent addition to the medical community, but I personally don't feel that they're as qualified in a serious situation as far as the book learning and those kind of things. Jeannie, what do you think?
Well, for one thing, Cindy, backing back, I always thought that the doctors had an ethical, maybe even a legal obligation to notify patients for, maybe like 3 months in advance that they are retiring, so that the patients can make a decision on how they want to continue with their care, if they want to stay at that practice or if they want to find another practice. For those who are leaving that practice, the patients will then have a certain amount of time. I think it's differs from state to state on how long they have to get their medical records, how long a doctor has to maintain storage of those medical records. I'm surprised that you just walked in cold turkey and were told he retired. Here's your new person, and your new person is a nurse practitioner, which in my opinion, nurse practitioners are okay if you go in for a cold or a skin knee or something like that. But for more serious, illnesses or treatments, I think, you need a doctor. And I just don't believe nurse practitioners have the experience and or the education to be able to properly see some patients. I know you went to a specialist, so I'm really, really surprised that the specialist had a nurse practitioner taking patients in a specialty role, because you were there for a follow-up of a very serious, possibly serious condition. So that's just ultra surprising that happened.
Well, as you mentioned, Jeannie, when we were talking before we went on air, there is a doctor in the office. I mean, there is another specialist doctor in the office. So that lends itself to, now that doctor has the other doctor's patients and that doctor's own patients. So it's kind of, so does that nurse practitioner then, and I didn't ask all these questions. I just kind of went along with it and said, well, let me do a little bit more research about it and find out, what I can find out and how I can shift to a different doctor, because that's a big caseload to have two doctors' caseloads, right? And the other thing is, I'm going to say this in all honesty, I mean, maybe they sent me a letter in the mail that I didn't, get, that I didn't open, and I thought it was something else. So, I mean, I'm going to throw that out there. I mean, I've made mistakes, certainly. So maybe it wasn't, cold turkey or whatever that I went in there and he just handed me the letter. Maybe there was a previous warning. I don't remember that there was one, but that doesn't mean they didn't send one. So I'll give them at least that much. But as far as the serious illness part goes, my thing about it is if you're in the room with a regular doctor, and the one that I was going to was very, very well schooled, which is why I really went to him and I really liked him. I'm sorry that he has serious illnesses of his own, which, like I said, does happen. That doctor reading the testing and stuff like that can make the decision there right for you, because they have the knowledge and the background and the schooling. I don't think as much with a nurse practitioner, or in that matter a physician's assistant, because I have those two in different offices for that serious of a diagnosis. And I have no problem going to either of the other for things that aren't quite as serious as this. I think it perfectly fills a gap, if you will. I get that. But I'm with you, Jeannie. I mean, in a serious situation like this, I want the real deal, for lack of a better word. And I wonder how the insurances, focus on this kind of stuff too. If that's what this is about, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Well, the standard is they usually put a copy of the letter. If they have sent a letter, they put a copy of it in your medical records. So if you come in and say, hey, I didn't get notifications, then they have that in their file.
Okay.
From what you told me, she or whoever that was, this nurse practitioner, a woman, wasn't really aware of even why you were there. So, I mean, that's really sloppy work, because they should have been able to tell from the files. And to me, that is very telling. And I think that, you spent as much money seeing this nurse practitioner as you would have, if I understand correctly, seeing a doctor. So to me, that's wrong, because you're not getting the same quality of service from a nurse practitioner that you get from a doctor. Therefore, their fees should be less. But I understand that, especially the corporate medicine facilities, they are hiring more and more nurse practitioners and physician's assistants, because they can save money in salaries but still collect the same fee from insurance companies. So, hey, insurance companies, if you're out there listening, you really should think about this seriously, because a nurse practitioner is not worth as much as a doctor, in my opinion.
Well, monetarily wise for the fees, I mean, you're right. You're exactly right. So I paid the same specialist fee that I paid this nurse practitioner. And I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to downgrade the profession at all. It's not about that at all. It's just for this serious of what could be an illness, I want to get in front of it. You know what I mean? With as much as backup as I possibly can. And I will say, and we only got a couple seconds left, I will say that people are smart. I mean, a nurse practitioner goes to school, so does a physician's assistant, that they should have their own red flag saying, hey, listen, I need backup for this. I need to ask somebody, blah, 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 blah. But I just wonder what the message is that you're sending to the patient when this happens, if people, what their opinions on this are. Anyway, on that note, stay tuned to Evergreen Media.